Hello, welcome to this video in Lightroom CC. We're going to look at a very powerful tool for shaping attention in your image. It's called the adjustment brush, and it's over here on the right-hand side. Actually, it's just called the brush tool, excuse me. I'm so used to Lightroom Classic where it's called the adjustment brush. It's just called the brush tool. So we're going to work on this image of the archway in a church as our starting point. We'll do two more images after that. And here we go. So click on the tool to activate it. And what you're going to see first is this tool has a lot of the same controls as you'll get in the exposure panel. So basically you're getting a lot of the exposure tools, color tools, white balance. You get a lot of, and the texture, clarity, and dehaze. So you get a lot of those things, and basically what this lets you do is paint with those tools in the exact place you want. Okay. So for example, in this image of the archway, what I want to do is I want to create some more contrast so you really see the wood that's got the light shining on it. So what I would love to do is have this upper part of the arch, the stone part, be darker. So here's how we're going to start with this tool. I want to get in the ballpark of the edit I want to make, knowing that I will adjust it likely after I brushed in the area I want to cover. So what I want to do is darken the stone arch and maybe cool the color there just a little bit, change the white balance just a little bit so that it's maybe a little more blue, which will help bring contrast so you'll notice the warm wood stuff. In getting started here, what I need to do is set my brush up the way I want it. And you'll see that the only control visible by default when you first start this tool is the size of the brush. And there's more to it than that. So you're going to click this little triangle to the right of the size number, and you'll see these other controls. So here's what I suggest. The size will vary depending on the area you're trying to cover. Plus, there's a strategy that I'll take you back to kindergarten to discuss. And then there's the feather, which is the softness of the edge, which is that outer circle that's shown here. The flow, which is, think of that like how hard you push on a spray can. Just a quick psh will mean not much flow. If you push it down, you get a lot of flow. I usually leave the flow at 100 for the edits I do, especially something like this. I'm covering the whole area. I want it to be all there, all at once. I don't want to just gently fade it in. If I was doing some more precise work, I might lower that. The density is how much this covers up was originally there. Think of it like opacity. So again, I'm going to leave that at 100. There's a cool checkbox just below density that says auto mask. I don't know about you, but painting with a mouse is not that easy for me. It's just hard to be really precise, especially as I go around this curved edge. So what auto mask does is it senses contrast between two edges, and it will help you keep your brush inside of that. So I'm going to turn that on first thing. Also going to turn my feather back down to about 50. That's the number I just like to work with. And here we go. So not quite yet. So as I said, what I want to do is make this a little darker. So nothing's going to change yet on screen because I have not used the brush yet. But I'm going to dial in an exposure of about let's just go to -1 because it'll be easy to see what we're doing. -1, and we'll go ahead and throw in some temperature change too. I did say I wanted to go a little more blue. We'll just do -10. So I'm just going to brush in an area so you can see what happens. So I'm going to just brush up here, and you can see it's darker there, and it's a little more blue. I might dial in some other changes later, but as I first brush, which is the process of covering the area I want to edit, which is this whole the stone archway. That's what I want to cover. So let's go back to, let's say, kindergarten, or the last time you colored in a coloring book. Remember how you did that? Remember how at least the way I learned was you start around the edges where you have to go slow and be attention to detail, and you go slowly with a small brush or small crayon or small marker. So I'm going to make my brush small as I go around the edge so that I don't make any mistakes where I don't want the brush to be. So I'm just going to go around the edge. You'll get faster as you do this more frequently. I have auto mask turned on to help me. As long as I keep that plus sign in the area I need to cover, I'm good to go. So I use a relatively small brush, go around the edges out here. And once I've got the edge area, then I'll make the brush larger, and I'm going to go back and turn auto mask off, because auto mask will sense all these contrast edges too and slow me down. So I'm just going to now go and cover everything else as quickly as I can without being messy. Okay, so just brush, 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 brush. So again, I started off with auto mask on as I first brushed around this to make sure I was careful around this edge detail. And then, and this photo is a great one to practice on, because if you do miss a little bit around that edge, it's not a big deal. So there we go. So again, this tool has a just like the healing brush, wherever you click first, it's going to make a blue pin. And when the pin that the brush area you're working on is active, it'll have a white dot in the center of it. And if you want to see where you brushed, just put your mouse over that area where you brushed, and you will see in red where you've brushed. You can see I missed a couple places right over there. It's not that big a deal. So there you go. So we've brushed in some darkness and some color change. You can change anything you want. Maybe I'm going to turn down the texture and the clarity a little bit. I'm going to, again, pull some sharpness away, which will draw attention to the part that is sharp in the center. Now, you can go crazy, go nuts, make it really, really dark. And actually, that's a good way to see where you may have missed something. And then again, just come back. So come back to here, whatever feels good. There's no magic here, number that works. Just eyeball it until it looks good. I might pull down some of the highlights and the whites. There's still some very bright spots like right here that are pulling your attention. So let's see if we can darken those just a little bit. I might open the shadows just a little bit there, because I don't want it to go just to be a black hole. Yeah, you just got to play around a little bit. So there you go. That's photo number one. So here's where we started. Here's where we're at. So as you can see, the photo is got a lot more attention in that archway than where we started back here. Okay, let's move on. We're going to do another arch, this one on a gate. This is in Cambridge. Not Cambridge, excuse me. This is in Oxford. I'm so sorry. So we're going to do the opposite here. This time, no, actually, we're going to do about the same thing. We're going to darken the outer again with the brush. So I'm going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to darken my exposure here as a starting point and just start brushing. Again, I'm going to turn auto mask on as a starting point, make my brush a little smaller, and just come through here and brush, brush, brush. I'm not going to make you watch all of this probably. So, and again, this one's pretty easy because where it meets is pure black. So if I'm making it darker, it doesn't do much to hurt it. All right, so I've got my detail covered around the edge, which is just that arch, and then I'm going to go turn auto mask off and come back through and do the rest of the area of the archway. So I'm going to make it really dark so I can make sure I cover everything the first time. And then I'll turn that back off a little bit. By the way, this would be, if you end up doing this a lot, this would probably be a good thing to get a tablet and a stylus to accompany your computer while you're doing this. All right, so let's see. We're going to darken that down a little bit, about minus 1.5 on an exposure. Pull the highlights down a little bit and the whites to get those bright spots away. Maybe pull the blacks down a little bit. Now, we're not quite done yet with this image. That's the main thing I wanted to cover. Now I want to add a second brush and bring more attention here to this kind of boring middle part as far as color and pizzazz. So you can have multiple brushes on an image, and so the way you create a second brush or a third or a fourth or whatever is up here at the top where it's we're at the brush tool. Click the plus sign to make a new brush, and it's going to inherit basically all the parameters you had before. So I'm just going to click the reset button to reset all of these back to 0, and there we go. And what I want to do here is kind of the opposite. I want to make this a little brighter, a little more contrasty. I want to bring out the blues that are in here. So here's how we're going to do that. So I'm going to take the temperature, go a little more to the blue side. Again, nothing changes yet because I haven't placed this brush in the scene. I want to turn up the contrast. I want to turn up the texture and clarity and dehaze. I don't know how much yet. And let's start painting now. So again, I'm just going to start and away we go. I'm going to pull the exposure down just a little bit too. So we're going to do some of this. We're just painting, painting, painting. And did I cover everything? How'd we do? Missed a couple spots. So if you're like me and occasionally sneeze while you do this, achoo, oh no, it's over there. How do I get rid of that? Well, what you do is change from the brush to the eraser, and you do that up here at the top right. So now I'm in the erase tool. You'll notice it has a minus sign in the middle of the brush. And now I just click where I don't want that brush applied. Now it's only erasing the one brush. You'll notice that it didn't erase the brush on the rock there, the archway. It just erased from this. And I missed a spot. So there we go, in here. Okay, does that make sense? So you have multiple brushes doing multiple different things. It's relatively fast when you're doing a large area like this. Let's see what else we need to do inside of here since we're here. Let's turn that contrast up a little more. I'm going to pull the blacks down in there. Maybe open the shadows a little bit. There we go. Highlights. We'll turn up the texture a lot so it pulls up the edges. Clarity. Dehaze. I don't want to go crazy on that. There you go. Oh, I can also turn up the saturation on the color there. I always forget about these down here. And noise, sharpness, moire, and defringe I don't use too much. There you go. So again, here's where we started on this image. And just with brushes, painting with exposure and color a little bit, plus the presence, contrast, clarity, dehaze. No, texture, clarity, dehaze. To bring attention to that middle spot more than where we started. Here's where we started. So I'm just clicking this preview button down in the bottom right-hand side to see before and after. All right, got one more photo to play with here to experiment with and do some things. So in this image, I'm going to do a couple things before we do the brush. So again, we're going to use color and exposure to draw attention. The exposure is pretty even on this. Everything, the leaf is the star. The leaf with the red leaf with the water drops on it is the star and what I want the focus of attention to be. So I want to bring more attention to that through exposure, color, and here's how we're going to do that. So we're going to start with the color changes, and we will do that in the edit panel, and then in the color section and then the color mixer. So what I want to do is I want to pull, see how bright the greens are, as how saturated they are. So I'm going to take the greens and I'm going to pull the saturation down. I don't want to pull completely down because then that looks fake. And I'm going to pull the luminance down, the exposure. So I'm going to make those a little darker and a little more muted. There's some yellows in there too, so I'm going to go to the yellow tab here. And I'm going to take the saturation, pull that down a little bit, and the luminance and pull that down. So we've already, in effect, brightened up this red leaf here, but I want to do it some more. And I'm going to use the brush to do it just so I have the most control. So I click the brush on, and we've got the size, feather, flow, and density the way we want. I'm going to turn auto mask on to begin. And what am I going to do here? I'm going to add a little exposure to the middle. And that's a good starting point. I will also show you another thing we're going to do here. So I've had auto mask on. We got to start around the edges. Actually, for this right now, I'm going to turn the exposure down. I find it's easier to see where you're painting when you go with negative exposure. So I'm just going to paint everything around the edges really as quickly as I can. I will skip ahead so you don't have to watch all of this. All right, so the edges are done. And one thing you'll learn as you're doing this is, when to be super duper picky and when to know that's good enough. Especially if your images are going to primarily be on small screens like phones and such. If you decide this is something you want to spend some more time on, then you would hop over to Photoshop and do this with some more attention to detail. But we are just about done with the outside, so I'm going to turn off auto mask and then come into the inside part, make my brush a little bigger with my scroll wheel, and just finish brushing in here. I know it looks awful. It's not the way we're going to end it, but it's the easiest way to see that I've brushed on the whole image right now. And that's what I want. And again, if you make a mistake, just go change the brush to the erase brush and brush back where you don't want it. All right. So what I want to do with this is make it a little brighter. Not a lot. That's wrong. So just a little brighter. I'm going to turn the contrast up a little bit more to help that. It's probably a little too bright. I'm going to pull the blacks down just a little bit, turn up the highlights and the whites just a little bit. So this is more of a nudge than a big hammer. I am going to increase the texture and clarity especially. Not clarity, excuse me. Clarity just a little bit. And then we'll turn up dehaze as well. So basically I'm sharpening. This is a little exaggerated, probably a little too much. It is too much. But I'm helping you see how this works. Now, one more thing you can do with this brush is you can colorize things. So down at the bottom of the panel, there's this option to colorize. So I'm going to turn that on, and then with the little button, the little switch there, and then you pick a color. So what color do you want this to be? So what this is doing is it's an overlay on top of the existing color. So even though I'm here at blue, it's making it purple because blue plus red makes purple. You have to be a little careful with this because if you do make a big switch like to this color, you'll see the areas I've missed or aren't quite precise. So what I want to do is just use this to nudge this to a little bit more red, kind of an orange red. As I go down, it gets less saturated in the color. If I'm up here at the top, it's a more saturated color. So I'm just down here and making it just a teeny bit more orange. So there we go. Again, here's where we started, and here's where we're at now. So this is before any edits. There were some edits before I started this video, but you can see where we started, the leaf doesn't pop out. Now, with all the exposure edits plus these color edits with the brush tool in Lightroom CC, we have even more attention on the red leaf. So the brush tool is really powerful. As you learn and get more experience with Lightroom Classic and CC, I hope what happens is you consider it as part of your photo creating process. As you're looking at images and deciding what to do, you might notice, oh, there's something I wish wasn't in the scene, but I can't move it. Well, you think about the adjustment, the healing brush. Oh, I can maybe get rid of that. You think about, well, this is going to be a little dark right now, but it's the exposure I need. I can brush it back with a little brightness later on, a targeted brightness. So as you're creating images, you can think about the tools you can use in post-processing to help you create the final image you have in mind. Hope that helps. If you have questions, as always, leave some comments below. Send me an email. Let's have a conversation. I'm glad to assist. If you have other suggestions or ways to use these tools that you found helpful along the way, I'd love to hear those as well. So we'll continue the Lightroom CC adventure in some more videos coming up. I look forward to sharing those with you, helping you hopefully learn these tools to create photos that express more of what you wanted to create. So until I see you in that next video, stay well, have fun creating photos, and take care of yourself.